you keen to say, Kingy?
Yeah.
Fire away.
I like to know if our relatives that are passed on, that have passed on, can they couldn't speak English when they were here. Can they understand you if they hear me?
Well, for many people who are relatives who have passed on that speak a different language or speak a different language to myself, what happens firstly is they have to learn the language still, because they can't feel my feelings, so therefore they have to interpret my words. And when you get to the celestial kingdom, above the seventh dimension, the way you communicate is very different, and you don't need to learn language because you can feel everything from the person exactly as it happens to them. And you can feel their every intention and every thought and every feeling that they have at the moment they have it. But when you're still, some of your relatives are still down in the first sphere and the second sphere, and those people who do speak their language generally, and the only time they feel drawn into learning another language is if they feel it's important to do so. So it just depends on whether they've learnt it or not.
If they hear with me now, they cannot understand what you say.
They can if they've learnt the language. It takes about 15 minutes of our time on Earth for them to learn the language. So it doesn't take long if they want to. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if that actually, for many of them, they can learn the language within a few minutes. The other thing is they can read the thoughts of everyone's mind as well, and a lot of thoughts don't happen in language, so they don't need a language to listen to read the thoughts. But they find it very difficult to read the thoughts of a person who's in higher development than themselves. So it makes it very difficult. If they are trying to read the thoughts of a higher spirit, they can't do that. They can only read the thoughts of a person who's at the same condition or in a lower condition than themselves, generally. Does that make sense? Yeah. So many of them are listening, yeah, of course. And, usually at these sessions, you're the minority and the spirits are the majority. In the presentation we had in England, there were over 5 million spirits present, but there were 5,000 spirits who came along with the people who came. So there was 5,000 of them, and then there were over 5 million listening all together. Yeah? And that often happens in every group. Sometimes in Australia we have literally billions of spirits listening at different times. Yeah,
that's a funny question. So spirits, do they fit in the room?
Well, this physical structure does not matter to them, and neither does the cold. So the reality is it's like a great big amphitheatre for them, where they can all just crowd around, layers upon layers, all the way back, and there's literally millions of people can listen at the same time in the spirit world. And because of my own intention to speak with them while I'm speaking, all of them can listen at the same volume. So they don't need an amplifier or something like that to listen to those things, to the things that are spoken. Yeah. And that frequently happens at gatherings on Earth with all different types of religious and spiritual matters, but generally we have far more spirits surrounding these groups than we have any other. And that's why sometimes you feel quite heavy. And in England we just had a meeting a week ago and it was very, very heavy because there were quite a lot of spirits there who were oppressed when they were on Earth, and so they had this real heavy feeling in them as well of their oppression, and they were affecting the people who were present on Earth at the group as well, which they always do. So, yeah. But usually if we invite our relatives to come along, the ones who listen to our invitation will come along, but it doesn't mean all of them came. It's only the ones who want to stay there and listen.
Is there so many spirits around because it's you? Yeah. Or is it in every place?
There are a lot of, almost all the spirits now in the spirit world do know who we are. There are a group of spirits who want to attack me because of knowing who I am, and those spirits have investments in people not believing anything that I say. And then there are a large group of spirits, when I say a large group, billions of spirits who know who I am and who are supporting what I'm doing on earth. So, and they are often present waiting to help other spirits who listen to the presentation. So that's why it gets busy around us a lot of times. And that's why sometimes when people come to the groups they feel quite heavy at times too, because of the amount of influence around them. Some of the subject matters too have a huge impact. So when we talk about anything to do with the law of compensation, which is a law that's to do with morality and the effect of immorality on the soul, many of very heavy spirits come to listen to that, but because they're very heavy, often the group feels very heavy as a result as well. So the group feels the emotions of the spirits. The key is to deal with all of those things emotionally anyway. The truth is always beneficial for everyone involved, including the spirits. So it's very important that these spirits listen to and hear this truth. Many of them have not had the opportunity to hear truth for most of their life in the spirit world, and so I welcome them coming to each group. And many of them actually, your questions, many of them are influencing your questions. And that is also good, because it means that they can interact through you in the discussion. Yes? It's a bit more difficult if I hear a spirit ask a question or feel a spirit ask a question. If I start talking and giving them an answer, you don't hear the question. So if it's great if they can reflect that question through you, and then we can engage the question and answer type of thing much more easily. So that happens frequently. All the time, in fact, in these groups. There are many spirits who are here who are only hearing this for the first time. So they live in this location in the first dimension, and I've never ever heard that there are other dimensions. Some of them have heard through, like, I suppose you call it Chinese whispers. You know, they hear a whisper from here or there that there might be such another thing, but many of them have never had a personal experience of it, and so they don't know. And what's really lovely about these gatherings is while we're discussing this, many of the celestial spirits, the ones that live above the 7th dimension, they come with us to these discussions, and they try to help the spirits who are in the 1st dimension listening to these discussions. And the reason why it has such an effect on those spirits is because when they have to come to Earth to listen to somebody speak, they're automatically connecting with their earth-based experience more fully. Whereas when they're in the spirit world, they don't connect as easily to their earth-based experience, particularly if it happened many thousands of years ago. And so it's very hard for them to relate to things. But if they come to Earth, they can listen, they automatically feel about their own life when they were on Earth. And that causes them to be more emotionally connected with their own life. And so it's often easier to help them understand truth as a result. Yeah?